Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to round number 6 of the RaceFace GT3 Sprint Series. My name is Stephen Koenig, and joining me in the box is the one, the only, the world's slowest alien, Jonneman Brace. Jonneman, how are you feeling tonight?
Good evening, Stephen. I don't know how to feel about tonight. I mean, me and you did a race on Monday evening around Zolder, and it didn't turn out so good for the two of us, but I'm pretty sure things might look a lot better tonight as we're going to go zolling around Zolder. Really looking forward to the sprint race, Stephen. This is, I think it's one of the tight and twistiest tracks we've been on all season.
You completely correct there. And being round number 6, there is 2 rounds left after this. That's it. It's done. Then the end of the season. So championships points are extremely necessary for everyone. And gentlemen, you've got the points in front of you. Who's in what position at the moment? I know there's been quite a few upsets through the championship.
Yeah, I'm not going to make any comments tonight about championship leads or whatever, but at this stage, we've got Ryan Ottens out in front on 231 points, followed in second place by Sanjan Pillay on 152. Then we got Mac van der Merwe on 149, Justin Lotus on 113. Then Daniel de Villiers and Daniel Rowe, the two Daniels on 108 points, followed by Tini and Kube on 103. So, Ryan Ottens might be out in front, but behind him, there's certainly going to be a battle for that second and third place in the championship, Stephen.
No, it's definitely going to be an exciting one. I can't wait to it. But let's take a look around Zolder. And Jonneman, why don't you take us through, considering my luck was I got sick. You did a little bit more laps than me. So let's head through to Zolder.
Right, as we gonna take a lap around Zolder. This track fairly interesting. It's, for me, sometimes a kind of a hit and miss as we go down the pit straight. First corner is a left-hander. Get the nose tucked in. Don't let it drift too wide, otherwise you're gonna end up in the dirt. Then open up this right-hander so that you can tuck the nose in. Get the power on nice and early. Now this little section is flat out. Don't run too wide there. Don't run too wide this section. You can very easily get on the rough. Spot your brake marker. Slight dab on the brakes as you go through this left-hander. Try and get on the throttle as soon as possible. Now we're on a kind of a straight. You need to spot your brake marker, and then it's the first of the chicanes. Take as much of the curb as you dare possible, or as you dare without upsetting the car, over this blind crest into the left-hander. Now this is a very difficult chicane, kind of a double chicane. First we go right. I see the cones have already been taken out, but take as much curb as you can, and right through this right-hander. Now we are flat out through this section. Trust that you've got enough grip in the car not to run wide here. Over another blind crest. Now we're into the hairpin at around the 100-meter board. Spot your brake marker. Get to the apex. Get on the power early. Otherwise, you lose a lot of time through this section. Then we come up to the last chicane. Brakes just before the bridge. Get in the nose in over the curbs. Don't let the car bounce too much. Don't run too wide, and you are back on the pit straight.
Very, very tricky course, and big thank you to Christopher Radloff. Big thank And we are back. Do apologize for the audio issues. New software, new stuff, a whole lot of new kits. But yeah, going to be an interesting. Gentlemen, you were busy saying that it is going to be an interesting race to see how people are going to cope with the situations that are going around. It's good to see like Bernard Barkhuizen up in front, Christian de Ploy, who said he wasn't going to race, now are coming and returning, which is good to see. Brandon Kruger, Hannes van Wyk, Bego Grobler, Morgan McCall, Johan Kleinans, our texter, Ryan Ottens, Mahath Musa, Mac van der Merwe in the top 10. But with the championship so close and getting so close to the end, it is turning into a bit of an exciting race all round.
Yeah, and I mentioned earlier on, Zolder is one of those tracks where upsets can happen because Steve, your margin of error is absolutely minimal. I mean, through the chicanes, I mentioned to you early on off air, we're gonna stay away from corner names because I'm not even gonna try and pronounce these corners. But the first chicane that we are almost coming up to now, just a couple of right-handers to go onto the straight, it can so easily upset the car, and then all of a sudden you find yourself facing the wrong way, and you did exactly the same thing as what you did all the previous laps. Well, that's for me the case. Some of these drivers are a lot better than what I am, but taking a lot of the curb here is mired. So the guys are really pushing it, and I don't know, are mistakes going to be made, especially through here as well, where you need to take a lot of the corners to be quick. That can also turn you around fairly easy if you haven't got your setup spot on. Am I going to predict an upset tonight, and we're going to see somebody else take that lead and the fight to the finish line?
I think it's going to be an exciting one, and just seeing that we got our dear friend Ethan jumping into the chat. Ethan, hopefully you can hear us now. This is one of the few times that I've ever been silent, so you're lucky. You're very, very lucky. There should be a charity race of see how much you can serve a mute Steve. I think we'll get the most money of who can serve a mute me the most.
You should hear Steven during a charity race. And there we see one of the Ferraris going around. Steven, I just spoke about that one. Losing that rear end and facing the wrong way.
That was De Villiers who got it completely upset and slid the car around. And I mean, this is the tricky thing about the circuit drive-throughs from Monday Night Racing. We saw drive-through penalties being a major factor. Also, the curbs just kicking the cars out hugely. I know we were in the Lamborghinis, and there was just massive vibration through the vehicles. So a lot of guys saying the mid-engines are naturally going to do that with the circuit, bouncing up and down, rocketing all around. But the front engines, like your BMWs, not complaining of such. Guys actually saying that the cars behaved themselves, that they weren't too concerned about it. They weren't too concerned about everything going berserk underneath them. So maybe, just maybe, we're going to see enough of a change for our competitors. And guys with the front engines, like your BMWs, your Mercedes, everyone's just going to move a bit forward. And our mid-engines that have been doing incredibly well all season now going to struggle out a little bit.
I do agree with you. I think this is going to be more of a front-engine kind of track. Don't throw away those Aston Martins. They normally tend to be quick these days. Mid-engine, I don't know. It will have to remain to be seen what the mid-engine cars are going to do, especially with, call it the jumps over the chicanes. I mean, the guys take a lot of curbs through here. I mean, look there, and well, nice switching the camera there, Stephen.
Well, it's just going and taking a look at all the guys that are bouncing around, try and give everyone enough, well, TV time essentially, because nearing the end of the season, a lot of competitors are now starting to look forward and utilize this time to go and talk about future sponsors. And Kleinand saying, your spectators curse. Well, maybe if you don't tune in while you're driving, hey, now I know the screen that's in the cockpit is not meant to be a review mirror. No, it is meant to be so you can tune into the live stream. Thank you, Kleinand. Now we know. I was always wondering, even when I sat in the car and went, this would be interesting, as we see on the BMW is also going into the dirt. Wisma coming into the pits. Kleinans, who had a little bit of a turnaround. But now we know. You just tune into the internet, go for it. And, a couple of guys as coming out pit lane. Kleinan's busy waiting for competitors to go by. And seems like it caused up a little bit of an issue as well with one of the cars coming barreling out the pits. So, at the moment, Brandon Kruger up in first place. Bernard Barkhuizen in second. Mac van der Merwe in third. Ryan Ottens in fourth. Morgan McCall in fifth. Good to see Morgan back out on track. And you know when you say it's good to see a familiar face? Well, I haven't seen Morgan's face in real life, but seeing the name back out there, and I take my hat off to Robert and Morgan, along with Junior, who's also around, along with the 80K team, to get him back out on the circuit, especially under the circumstances where he's been missing out a lot of races. He's coming in, he's putting in a good time, so good to see that. Christian Deploy, his teammate, right behind him in sixth place, hoping to get a little bit more of a push. Nicholas Manuel, Hannes van Veek, Bego Krobler, and along with Peter Meyer. And I just want to apologize. It does look like we've got some of the liveries. It's a little bit odd from what I saw in the one Aston Martin. And Peter Meyer, who's just waiting to go out. So hopefully he will be ready to go up in 10th place. Fifth. Yeah, we've got a lot of young drivers, you know what I mean? I just want to lean that in. We've seen a lot of young drivers, a lot of young talent who have really come up through the ranks into the pro division for the RaceFace GT3 Sprint Series. And it's really, really nice to see the guys pushing themselves a little bit more every time.
I mean, absolutely. And I always think, when we have these young drivers coming through the ranks very early on, where are these guys gonna be in 5 years' time, Stephen, if they're already at the young ages that they are, some of them as young as 15 years old? If they're already on this pace, what pace are these guys gonna do in 5 years from now when they've got a bit more experience on themselves? As we see Mac van der Merwe, that chicane biting him a little bit there. But just coming back to Morgan McCall, Stephen, absolutely brilliant to see him back tonight. Morgan has had a lot of bad luck the past couple of races, but he's sticking at it. And it just shows you that never say die attitude that somebody like Morgan McCall's has got, just coming back for more. And his teammate Christian Deploy. Now, you mentioned Christian said to us just before the race that he's not going to race tonight, but now he's racing, and that tells me Christian might be a little bit worried about this track, and he needs the track time for tomorrow night, maybe, because we haven't seen Christian that often on the sprint races on Wednesday evenings.
So it's going to be interesting to see how it all works out. Maybe a bit of testing for tomorrow evening, but in the same time, he's going to be playing into the championship of how it goes, because Christian has been having a solid fight. And now where you got drivers coming in this late into the championship, you're going to have guys asking a very serious question of, please do not land up interfering in any championship or how it's all going to work out. And this is where I feel you've got to just race your race. Whatever it is, you've got to just race your race. But you've got to drive smart in it. You've got 45 minutes. You know who you're racing. You know where you need to be to maximize championships, but you also know where your limits are. Don't try and go beyond it and land up with it. So let's see how the driving's going to work out. But as we head back to the commentary booth, let's go and chat before everyone lines up on the grid.
Yeah,
so,
in the...
While everyone's lining up, Jan, are you ready for this?
Well, I just had a look at Ryan Ottens there. I mean, in the dying moments of qualifying, Ryan put in a blinder of a lap. 0.005 of a second separates him and first place. So, Ryan coming back. This is going to be a close one. I think the first couple of laps are going to be interesting until, I want to say, things die down. But, Stephen, we know, both me and you, these sprint races never die down. It's hard action, start to finish. So, Kruger and Ottens, I think Barkhuizen, McCall, dearly hope everything goes right for him, Van der Merwe, and even Christian Deploy. I think they're going to be in the mix, and they're they're going to have a fierce battle on their hands tonight.
It's going to be a rather exciting one as we just going through all the different cars. Brandon Kruger up in first place. You can see he's got the mighty Aston Martin of Bernard Barkhuizen staring him down. And they're going to make life rather interesting. But this track also lends itself to being a very tricky circuit with marbles, as we can see, already scattered onto the one side. There is bits of rubber and dirt and rubbish that's going to play into it and affect your grip overall. So the drivers are going to have to be very, very aware of it. Turn 1 is going to be very ginger. As we know, with the sprint race, it is a full lap to warm up your brakes and tires, so you best do so, especially the brakes. You're going to rely on them a lot at this point, so you got to make sure you absolutely pinpoint perfect before you head out to the race and not get caught out in any of the situations that may put you into a, well, if what I had spun round in the wrong direction looking at the guys coming in the right direction.
I just went left into the wall.
That's all you can do in some situations, is just go left. As we watch our leader now pulling off the field, Ryan Otten's going to be following suit with his Porsche. But this is going to be a interesting race all around for all the drivers of how it's all going to work out. Seeing Clennon saying, all right, Lacquer, good luck, everyone. He's not going to have enough time to be on the phone in this 45 minutes. And we got Finn Daly going and saying, go Hannes, Team Venomworks. So good to see the support there. Big thank you to everyone joining in. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, like, and also drop a comment as well at the end of the stream. Let people know we're on our way to 1,000 subscribers. And that will be the massive, massive milestone for RaceFace over the many, many years that RaceFace has come around. And I've got to say, 800 and we're sitting at 800 plus at the moment, which is
842.
I mean, that's absolutely incredible stuff, and that's a big thank you to you guys, the spectators, the teams, the families, and even you, the drivers that are watching us afterwards, making it all possible. We really, really do appreciate it.
So as we, more than halfway, Stephen, through this formation lap, I don't know, Zolder's, you mentioned it's tricky. But the other thing, Stephen, it's also a very short lap. It's a lot shorter than a lot of the other circuits that we've been on. And a pit stop tonight can really hurt you. It can put you basically a lap behind, because by the time you get out the pits, the other cars will already have made their way around, which will make your life extremely difficult in this race. This is a sprint race. Remember, there's no pit stops. It's racing start to finish. So you would really want to avoid a pit stop by any cause on a track like Zolder.
Well, one thing that's having a chat to the guys is everyone underfueled quite heavily and also are reliant on their tires holding out. So let's see how that's going to work out as our leaders starting to make their way through. Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of it. But guys did complain. Front tires, as soon as they start to fade out, the understeer kicks in and life gets difficult, especially going into the remaining 45 minutes. Now that we're getting into the pressure situation of a championship coming to a close, all eyes are going to be on the front and how it's all going to work out. Brandon Kruger actually landing out, getting a little bit close to the dirt. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, for round number 6, we're going to go green, waiting for Jim to go and radio in and give us the green flag. So Jim, it's on you. Anytime, Jim. You can do it. We believe in you. We believe in you. You can do it. Come on, Jim. Just say go green. There we go. And away they go. Ryan Watson's off to a fantastic start, trying to go around the outside, side by side between himself and Brandon Kruger. Brandon going closing out. Looks like everyone's going gingerly through turn 1, having to really go and climb on the anchors. Peter Meyer being one of the guys that's just having a little bit of rubbing and racing. Christian Deploy up into 5th place, pushing up Mac van der Merwe, Bernard Barkhuizen up into 4th, Morgan McCall in 3rd place. Nicholas Manuel also, who was going and rubbing a bit of paint, has done well to claw his way through. Christopher Radloff a little bit further down, 10th, 11th with Peter Meyer. Peter trying to go up on the inside, a little bit of contact between the two, now into the chicane. Well, a little bit close there, won't say.
Yeah, I think Pillay had to take some evasive action and jump that chicane, which killed his drive coming out the corner, and that has allowed Mara to get past. And now Sanjay under Pillay from under pressure from Musa behind him. Stumbling over my words a bit, Stephen. Things are happening quite quickly out there tonight.
Yeah, Mahath Musa going and battling out. Kleinon's trying to go up on the inside. Second guesses the option. Ronald Busma as well, just going and backing out. As I've got to say, a very clean lap one. As we head back to the front end of the field, Ryan Ottens chasing after Brandon Kruger, 0.5 of a second behind. We go a little bit further back. Matt van der Merwe, who has now climbed onto the back of Christian Deploy and keeping in that tow. Christian's catching up to Bernard Barkhuizen as they slide their way through. Nicholas Manuel just giving some breathing room, trying to figure out where is he going to have his opportune moment. But now the question comes in, is what's going to happen during the race? You push extremely hard, you're going to wear out those front tires early on, even though you're trying to bring them up to optimal temperature, you're going to start wearing them out. That understeer is going to come into play, and once you start going and bashing the curbs, as we saw between Peter Meyer and also Sanjay Pillay, that's not helping the situation at all.
Yes, and that.
Oh, it looks like that's Vago, or no, that's Hannes van Wyk, who landed up going into the weeds with the Aston Martin, losing out to Nicholas Manuel. Now Vago Krobler trying to go up on the inside, makes it stick, a little bit of shoving between the two. Sorry, that's Christopher Radloff that was getting a little bit of a shove between himself and Hannes van Wyk. So some battles going the way through. It does look like Morgan McCall keeping pressure on Ryan Ottens, but is feeling the pressure from Bernard Barkhuizen behind him. So really trying to lean on one another to try see where they can go. Morgan looks to try to go on the inside, decides that he's not going to do it. He's going to back out of it, not to go and run into the side of Ryan Ottens. Now, this is a circuit, I've got to ask, is it similar to Brands Hatch, in my opinion, where you just got to play, follow the leader, let mistakes happen, and capitalize on when the mistakes happen?
Yeah, I mean, the places where you can pass in Zolder fairly limited into that last chicane. Oh, a little bit of contact we got there from Christopher Radloff, as him and who is that? Hannes van Wyk and Peter Marr going side by side through there. I mean, they're getting into a little bit of a three-car battle here. Marr now on the inside. It looks like he is going to stick to that inside line, and they're just going to decide, let's run side by side through everywhere, as we've got Radloff now tucking in behind Marr and trying to close that gap down and put him under pressure again. Marr jumping that chicane, Stephen. That's a risky strategy he's got going there. It can pay off, but it can also bite you.
Yeah, and there's Hannes van Wyk getting caught past Bago Krobler. Bago going off. Marr gets twisted
Marr
around.
Loses it.
Marr gets twisted around, and the grid having to take evasive action to avoid Peter Meyer, who landed up going right round. But well done to the guys, just avoiding all of it. But let's see if we can jump back about 30 seconds and see what happened to Peter Meyer.
I think he lost it all by himself. I did not see contact. I might be mistaken. I think
over the curb.
Oh, BMW.
Yeah, that was Christopher Radloff, just gave him a slight tap, and fortunate enough, he was off the racing line. Tried coming back, second guessed it, everyone taking evasive maneuvers, a little bit of bumping and barging, but it's everyone playing follow the leader. But yeah, that's a very, very difficult one to try and battle out. Ronaldo Busma, though, on a charge after Mahath Musta, got Justin Lotus chasing him down and having a great fun, and Daniel Dematros Petro also getting involved in the mix. He wants to try and close down on the gap. Little Honda doing well, with Kleinans staring it down, but Busma trying to go around the outside, carrying as much drive as possible. Here comes Daniel, though, lining up side by side. Justin Lotus going defensive. Busma trying to go and outbrake on the inside line. Can he make it stick side by side? Honda goes for a leap, and well, looks like Kleinans going and moving up a spot, and also Tini and Kube capitalizing on that mistake as well. It does look like we've got Dematros trying his best, but doing a lot of off-road running, and that is going to lend itself to getting a penalty a little bit later on. So he's got to be so cautious doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's very risky, you know, skipping corners like that. You mentioned drive-throughs from Monday night, the race we did here, and that might be a reality tonight as well, as we have a look at Nkube with D'Amato Preto behind him. You know, Daniel, he's taken, you know, in one lap, Stephen, I think he picked up 2 penalties, so I might be mistaken, might have not gained any time, but if he gained any time on any of those mistakes, he might be on 2 warnings in 1 lap already. As we have a look at Bego Grobler, he's got what behind him, Christopher Radloff for company. Bego changing livery, Stephen, so we'll have to get used to the new livery, and you know, these guys changing the liveries doesn't make life always easy for us, so we'll have to study how the new liveries look. But Christopher Radloff trying to get on the back of Bego Grobler, put him under pressure. We all know Bego, he's not gonna take this fight lying down.
Ryan Otten's getting twisted around, so let's actually take a look. I just saw him dropping down the timing sheets, and what happened? Did that drop a wheel on the dirt for the Porsche and it just snapped around underneath him? There's a slight bit of rotation, nothing bad there. Has got Morgan McCall right behind him. Now into the chicane, hard on the brakes. Is the chicane going to claim another victim?
Chicane.
And does so.
The chicane.
Rotates
Taking
around.
too much curb.
And
Well done on holding that Porsche. He could have easily turned that car right around, and well done to all the other drivers who avoided him while he was busy having his accident.
well, Mac van Merwe, who was looking to go for a pass on Christian Deploy, and Banchik to do so, but definitely change the color of his shorts on that one. Tini Nkube going after Kleinans onto the back of Rodal Busma. This is one of our close battles, along with Bego Grobler and Honest van Dijk a little bit further up ahead. But some great racing going on, but it's all coming down to follow the leader. Put as much pressure on as possible to try and force the competitors into a issue. Try and make them brake a little bit later, run them into the curbs, and let the curbs claim another victim around Zolder. I gotta say, Zolder's circuit is purely based on how many people can you murder on the curbs. Have to say that.
You mean murder on the curbs? You mean them make them run over the curbs and make the mistake all by themselves? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, it's straight up murder. You hit one of those curbs, you're going flying through the air, you're already on the stairway to heaven. That's it. There's no if but whens about it. It upsets the car terribly, and what the life it takes out of the tires is huge. I mean, you knocking every time you run over the rumble strips as hard as you can with these, you taking out at least 5% every time you hit it as hard as can be. 5% out of your left front tire, give yourself 45 minutes, that understeer is going to develop, or you're going to get that snap oversteer, as we've seen a lot of drivers having to compete with.
Yeah, you know, as we look at Kirstein making his way around the track, I want to ask you a question. Don't you think, I mean, a lot of these drivers, if not all of them, are racing again tomorrow night? We know the Sprint Series is now a championship in its own right, but don't you think a lot of them, as we see Skuma on that Audi complaining out of the last corner, but don't you think a lot of them want to do some testing for tomorrow night just to see if they push it to the absolute limit, how long these tires are going to last?
This is where it gets difficult for any driver. It's how far are you willing to push the boundaries? How well are you looking to get a little bit, as you see Bernard Barkhuizen and Morgan McCall actually managed to get around Bernard Barkhuizen and is now putting pressure right onto the back of it. Yes, you are going and seeing how much life you can take out of these tires, but as you pointed out, it is a championship. This is round number 6. You're running to the end of your championship, and you've got to be so cautious of taking risks. This is where points matter. Every point matters. It doesn't, you have to cross the line no matter what. And this is where it gets a little bit difficult, because you've got to put it aside and go, I'm racing. I've really got to give it everything I got. You've got to climb out of your rig at home and say, I've done everything I could to make sure I can come across that line, and I finished up in a position that I can be proud of. And that's where the trick comes in. And also, where we're starting to see, like the BMW of Mahath Wissa has got a little bit more downforce set up for his car, as Sanjan Pillay was able to straight line utilize the utilized the slipstream, but wasn't able to brake a little bit later, and that's where Mahith Wissa was allowed to get a little bit closer. So these are factors that come into play where you start trying to realize what can you do mid-race to improve your race and how to keep cool under the pressure. Because once we start getting into the grid, the front end of the field, catching up to the rear end of the field, you don't want to interfere with the back end's championship battle.
Absolutely. I mean, just another thing now, as we have a look at Ryan Ottens, he's battling it out with Nicholas Manuel. But one thing I noticed in this battle, and in the previous ones that you focused on, like the one with Morgan McCall and Bernard Barkhuizen, it does look like, Ryan Ottens screaming past Nicholas Manuel there. I mean, I think Nicholas almost let him pass there, as it looks like Ryan Ottens kind of said thank you there as he went past. But what I wanted to say, it does look like the front engine cars look a little bit more comfortable around this track.
Well, if you think about it, the circuit does allow for a lot harder braking. So if you can get the weight to shift across the front nose and allow you to run over those curbs a little bit harder than planned, you should be able to take advantage of it. With the mid-engine, you got to balance out how far the weight is shifted. Naturally, the front engines have a tendency to understeer. The mid-engines have a natural tendency to oversteer. That rear starts to step out, and now you upset it with a curb where you're watching the guys through the chicanes is physically bouncing their cars. Those springs, those shocks, those rebounds are set a little bit softer, so it's allowing that travel to go. But unfortunately, if you're in the likes of a Porsche, or if you're in the likes of a Audi, a McLaren, and as we've had people reporting that the McLaren is very, very difficult to have on this because the rebound causes the whole thing to upset. So you've got to be so cautious, where the likes of the Aston Martin and the Mercedes, where it weighs an absolute ton, can run straight over. I mean, if you talk about it, the Mercedes weighs close to 1,300 plus kilograms. Okay, so 1.3 tons. Aston Martin 1.3 tons. BMW 1.2 tons. Sorry, I have to go back in my memory here. Audi's 1.1. And then once you add weight to it, it does bounce it, but it's 1.1 kilograms. So you want to talk about where the weight starts coming into play, excluding BOP changes in terms of engine. But as we just see from Rodolfo Bosma, as soon as you get on the loud pedal, the tail wants to light up and slide underneath it. So you've got to be so careful to this. And this is where you've got to be so cautious of what you're doing.
I mean, absolutely, as we have a look at Barkhuizen, he's hunting down Morgan McCall, but at this stage, Morgan, coping with that pressure extremely well, and he has made life very difficult for Barkhuizen. And Stephen, it comes back to what we said earlier on. Don't you think Barkhuizen is just hanging back at this stage and hoping for a mistake from Morgan McCall? You spoke about, murdering him over the curbs.
Well, it's the only way to sort of describe a thing like that. But I think at this point, Bernard Barkhuizen, seeing Morgan McCall ahead of him and knowing that he needs to get ahead of Morgan McCall, he needs to catch up to Brandon Kruger, because Barkhuizen and Kruger are in the championship. Morgan McCall is not as high up in the championship. So at the moment, he's losing valuable points where Morgan McCall has got nothing to lose. So he can literally put his foot down and not worry and just keep up the charge. Bernard Barkhuizen's got to get right onto the back of Brandon Kruger, who we could see up the road 3.1 seconds ahead, is starting to pull away. Mac van der Merwe is starting to close in on him, along with Christian Deploy. I mean, these are factors that's going to be rocking through their heads, and they're going to be having chats with their team saying, all right, we've got a problem here. This is where we've got to maximize our team points and our driver standings. And when you've got I'm going to say the wild card of Morgan McCall, who's got nothing to lose at this point. He's got everything to gain and is having a right royal fun race. Bernard Barkhuizen
got a
is sweating.
good run out of McCall out of that corner. I mean, but make no mistakes, Morgan McCall is no slouch, but Barkhuizen, it's true what you said, Barkhuizen is in the championship. He sees Brandon Kruger running away with it at this stage. He's trying to get past Morgan McCall by any means necessary, as we see him tucking into that slipstream. He's trying to get as close to the bumper of that Mercedes as he possibly can to try and facilitate a pass by any means necessary. But Stephen, having a look at these front engine cars, and I kept an eye on how they're dealing with the chicanes. They definitely a lot more sure-footed over those chicanes. They don't get upset that easily by the bumps and, you know, all the knocks that they are getting. Even putting a little wheel on the dirt, as we see there in the background, doesn't upset them all that much. But at this stage, Barkhuizen cannot find any way past McCall, as we see him jumping over the chicane, getting a little bit of a better drive on Morgan McCall through there. He's going to close up right onto that rear bumper. Morgan positions his car on the inside, and no way past for Bernard Barkhuizen. He needs to slot in behind Morgan McCall again. The track narrows up very much through there, so there's side-by-side action through there is going to, I want to say, end up in tears. But Morgan now really starting to defend. He's closing, positioning that car a la Stephen Koenig style in the middle of the track, so that there's no way for Bernard Barkhuizen to go. So
and into your favorite corner, the Jackie Xbox corner.
It's just because I can't pronounce the second word. The closest I can come up with through this chicane is Jackie's Xbox.
So through Jackie's Xbox, essentially, Mac van der Merwe now looking to also get into it. So while Bernard Barkhuizen's been battling it out with Morgan McCall, Mac van der Merwe has been closing in little by little by little, and is now within striking distance as well. So this is going to change the element that Bernard Barkhuizen is dealing with. Do you continue going on the attack, or now do you have to just move yourself away from the attack, look on the defense, and then carry on? You need to start looking a bit more inward versus out towards the cars ahead of you, and it makes life rather difficult for everyone. And it does look like there was a bit of contact between the Matros Petro. So one of the cars actually jumping into the pit, and that was Dean Kabasa, who's actually gone and pitted, retired. Bernard Barkhuizen right up behind Morgan McCall, and you can see Mac van der Merwe getting very, very close as well. So turning into quite a heated point, but not wanting to be a sausage in the middle here. And if we go to his helmet cam, this is where you can see a Mercedes in front of him and a Audi chasing him down, flashing his lights, saying, "I'm coming."
Now, this is absolutely the position that Barkhuizen doesn't want to be in. He doesn't want pressure from behind from Mac van der Merwe, as we see. Oh, what happened there?
Mac just going and sliding in, so the KSR Vibe team just going and mixing it up with the KSR Prism. Did we witness a team order in a sprint race? Bertus Hugo, please talk to your team for having team orders in that respect.
You know, just Stephen Robert Wentworth on the stream says he doesn't want to be that guy, but can we please get splits on the stream?
All right, let's see if we can try and do it. We've been battling a little bit with how the software has been working, so try and get it to all connect up again.
We've been having a bit of issues tonight pre-stream. A little bit, one or two gremlins, you know, creeping into the circuit. But coming back to the battle on track. So Bernard Barkhuizen has now been released, and Christian Deploy running behind him, trying to close back that gap. So Christian is currently in 5th place. Not a bad drive from somebody that said he's not going to race tonight. So we've got Bernard Barkhuizen in 4th place, Mac van der Merwe in 3rd, and having a look now with Grant Sebastian, he is battling it out with Kleinans.
So
as they Yes.
Just looking, fortunately, I can't seem to get the gaps for some odd reason, and it will be investigated. I do apologize to everyone in the gaps. We'll try to keep you up to date in how far the guys are apart. But once again, we do apologize for that.
So we're having our fair share of gremlins tonight, me and you.
It's been interesting.
to say the least.
It's been interesting.
I'll blame it on load shedding. Everything today is load shedding's fault. If something goes wrong, I just say it's load shedding.
Well, at the moment, Brandon Kruger is ahead of Morgan McCall, 3.4 seconds up the road. Mac van der Merwe is 2.1 seconds behind Morgan. 1.3 seconds behind him is Bernard Barkhuizen. 1.3 is Christian Deploy. Reinhardt is 3.9 seconds behind, which is tremendous. Nicholas Manuel, 2.4. Hannes van Wyk right up onto the back of Nicholas Manuel, looking to try and hunt him down. As Tim, the cameraman, a little bit panning, a bit slow there. Tim, you got to catch a bit of a wake up. Did we give Tim a good cup of coffee?
No, I think it's more a case of too much work, too little pay.
Okay. Right. So just seeing it from the KSR team boss saying Mackie is faster than you. KSR in 1, 3, and 4. Good going. Yes. I know that Mackie is faster than me, but team orders. Come now. Let them race, in my opinion. Let them race.
You must let Mackie pass, question.
As we jump back to Kleinans duking it out with Grant Sebastian getting into the toe, really pulling himself along. Does look to the inside, try to go around the outside actually, and just having to back out of it. Grant Sebastian positioning the car to make life rather difficult for Kleinans to try and get by him. Well done to Grant Sebastian. We've seen him all season keeping very consistent. He's been sitting just outside that top 10 in the GT3 Sprint Series, but has really been focusing on keeping the consistency up. Lap time at the moment, 129. Actually, Brandon Kruger, the best lap time of 127. Last lap time was 128. So a second off the current, as we see that BMW getting a little bit of airtime. Definitely getting sponsored.
Yeah, for takeoff?
Yeah, that's it. Plan G question. No, it should be power unit question. If you're talking in the lines of Ferrari, I am going to be. By the end of this, you're going to see me buried. You're going to see me buried with the Italian flag on the top.
Oh, there we go. Daniel De Villiers. Plan G is for generator. Yes, Daniel, I am currently on generator power. Supplemented by UPS power, and unfortunately no ESCOM available.
Taking a look back, Van der Merwe keeping it back, Bernard Barkhuizen. So, about that, the comment of the Mackie was faster. Bernard has decided, no, he is not. And gets past, ramping the Aston Martin through the air. But while these two were slugging it out between one another, Christian Deploy has been slowly closing him in. He's within a second of these two. So, now the question comes in. You've just rotated your drivers again to try and make up some ground. You hoped that Mac van der Merwe was a little bit quicker and to pull you along. Turns out didn't. You had to move around, and now you've got Christian Deploy who's starting to reel him in, starting to close down that gap. This is for third place, so points are on the line and needed for Mac van der Merwe, Christian Deploy, and Bernard Barkhuizen. So there has to be a point where something gives between these three drivers. Mac van der Merwe, though, starting to give, and that Audi having to live with getting absolutely planted to the floor. Christian Deploy has now gotten into the toe, and that Mercedes is looking very, very hungry for some Audi rings.
Now, here's a question, another question for you. While they were busy swapping positions and all those kind of things, that has actually allowed Morgan McCall to, open up a little bit of a gap, and Christian Deploy to close right up on them, which is going to put Mac van der Merwe in the same position that Bernard Barkhuizen was a couple of laps ago. Stephen, do you think their strategy has paid off? Question.
You know, we're looking at a Mercedes and
Oh, Christian.
parking
Never
it
mind.
on the race line. All right, so guys, if anyone wants to ask why we will have funny drawings on our commentary faces, that's because commentators curse just struck out our graphics designer. Sorry.
Moving on, shall we?
Moving swiftly forward.
It's very, very quickly.
Bago Krobler now feeling the pressure from Christian Deploy, but now what have those tires started doing? They've gone to 28 degrees. If you look at what the track is, it's 28 degrees. You're trying to cool the tires down to about 27 psi. They've now pushed up to 28 psi. They've gone through the roof in temperature and in psi. They've become balloons at this point. And now you just got to try and maintain to get them in a better position. But Bernard Barkhuizen and Mac van der Merwe now seeing that the McLaren has the Mercedes has just disappeared out of their view, they can concentrate on their race, where Christian Deploy has to go through Bago Krobler. Bago's not going to relinquish that position anytime soon. Hannes van Beek, who's further up the road, going after Nicholas Manuel, who's also now starting to mount the pressure and hoping that maybe the curbs will take another victim.
Yeah, I think at this stage he's pretty much relying on the curbs. I'm just having a quick look here on the YouTube chat. I mean, you know, this guy that's doing their strategy doesn't quite seem too sure what he's doing. He's changing his calls every second lap.
So you would fit in an F1 grid.
I'm not going to name any names here. I'm just making a comment here because it's just starting to get a bit interesting as we have a look at Christian Deploy. He's closing up now on Bago Krobler, putting him under pressure, taking those curves. Steven, you mentioned he needs to go through Bago Krobler.
Oh, wait. Hannes van Beek, to apologize to jump in there, has now got a drive-through penalty.
Not nice.
This is going to impact it onto the dirt. Now just trying to straight line. Nicholas Manuel can just lift off now. Let Hannes go. And Hannes van Beek diving into
action for the pits.
Woo.
We haven't mentioned that tonight, that when you come into the pits, you actually have a different braking point going into that last than the people going into the last corner. And Hannes van Beek almost running into the back of Manuel there because he wanted to go into the pits and Manuel wanted to take the last corner.
Oh, there we go. Gets an absolutely phenomenal drive and is lifting off a bit. Getting back on the throttle. He's not revving it all the way through, so he's letting Nicholas Manuel go. And there's it, realizing, oh, shucks, my braking marker is a little bit different. And that could have ended very, very badly, very quickly.
Yeah, and that drive-through penalty is going to hurt him a lot. I mean, we mentioned it earlier on. These laps are not that long, you know, in the 1 minute 20s. So that's essentially going to put him a lap down by the time he comes out of the pits almost.
He's in 17th position from 7th. He's dropped 10 positions in one fell swoop.
And that's not even stopping in the pits.
Well, that's it. And just taking a look, Grant Sebastian, Ronaldo Busma, and Johan Kleinans all duking out. Busma having a great time. Mr. Ronaldo Uwu Busma going and having a bit of fun. And the reason for the Uwu is I've been informed that the KSR girl on the side of the car is the mascot. So
okay,
that's why it's Uwu.
Another drive-through for Kleinans this time.
Oh, no. It's starting to mount up.
Busma, change camera.
Yep. Systematically, commentators' curse coming into play, and Kleinans suffering the drive-through penalty. That's for him hopping over the curbs, as we saw earlier. 2 so far have happened, and is going to make life rather interesting. Now, Christian Deploy has got an interesting situation. Bago Krobler's backed him up into Christopher Radloff. Now, Christopher Radloff has an opportunity to try and go and have a shot at him, to go into that 8th place, putting 7th and 8th into the contingent for the Hybrid Academy team. And that is a bit of a change-up for the race itself. And this is where having your teammates around does become a little bit more advantageous, because you can rely on your teammate to maybe make a corner a little bit more difficult for your competitor that's behind you, to allow you to catch up. And this is a
Radloff.
Radloff getting it all kinds of sideways, and well, I think I'm gonna end that conversation there.
Well, previously we saw Christian deploy really pushing that Mercedes and almost making the same mistake again over the curbs on that first chicane. So he's definitely trying to get past Bega Grobler. But we all know Bega Grobler is not going to make life very easy for Christian deploy. Christian will somehow have to find a way past that Audi and try and cope from the pressure that Christopher Radloff put on him previously. Christopher running wide, and they've opened up a little bit of a gap there now. So I don't know, at this stage Christian it's kind of in a predicament, Stephen. I think it's almost as if he's getting held up, but he can't find his way past Bega. We know Bega is somebody that races very hard. He'll take the fight to you. As we take a quick look at Mr. Wentworth, seeing that his brother has asked, where is my brother?
Yeah, Mr. Wentworth, William Wentworth down in 23rd, Dean Cabasa in 24th, and it looks like Ronaldo Bosma has retired the car for the evening. And this is the challenging things of, even though you're at the back of the field, anything can happen that can move you up through the grid. As he's chasing down SES Days, who got told by his teammates that there was he got a drive-through. Essie, who's having a great time. Clay Nuns, who was further up, got a drive-through, now is within 3.3 seconds of his teammate chasing him down. So these are all little factors starting to come into play. But if we take a look through the field, we've got Brandon Kruger up in first place, Morgan McCall in second, Bernard Barkhazen in third. Fourth place is Mac van der Merwe, followed by Ryan Ottens, Nicholas Manuel, Bego Krobler, Christian Deploy, followed by Christopher Radloff, Mahayath Musa, Sanjan Pillay, Justin Lotus, Tini Kube, Grant Sebastian, Hannes van Veek, Hansi Myberg, Daniel Dematros Petro, as Tim the cameraman is going to move his camera as we see Daniel going and skating around, getting ahead of Hansi Myberg, having a good run there. Hansi down into 17th, 18th, John LaRue, followed by Tini Kube, Tianas Bertha in 19th, Werner Skuman, Essie Estahe in 21st, 22nd, William Wentworth, and it looks like Clay Nuns has slowed down. He's into 23rd, Dean Cabasa in 24th. So, as our grid starts to get a little bit smaller as time goes on.
I see Jan Kleiner said there on the chat, mistakes today, points tomorrow. So I don't think things are going quite as planned for him at the moment.
No, it's going to be an exciting challenge, and
this is. We see Christian deploy.
This is
making their way around the track. Christian really trying to put some pressure on Bega. Grobler still hasn't found his way around him. Bega coping with that pressure extremely well. Christian trying whatever he can as they fight their way around the track. Still in the slipstream, and we've got Christopher Radloff making his way ever so closer, putting more pressure on Christian Deploy. So Christian kind of in the sandwich here at the moment of the two teammates trying to put the pressure on him and trying to force him into a mistake so that they can be released and carry on their merry way.
It's going to be an interesting challenge for them.
Does at the moment look like I've lost my fellow commentator, Mr. Stephen Koenig. I'm sure he will be back pretty shortly. Oh, Stephen, there you are.
Yep, still here.
Oh, you still here? You went quiet for a while.
I was busy actually looking through the positions and gains. And
Drive-through for Morgan McCall.
Morgan McCall getting a drive-through, and he was in second place. He moved up 2 positions. Seemed like the race was going his way, and my word. This is the battle that comes in, and to tell you how long the pit lane drive-through is, it's 32 seconds for these drivers. I mean, that is a lifetime to be sitting on the pit limiter, and now to have that happen to him, my heart goes out to the drivers. That's 3 drive-through penalties we've seen, and it's all pushing how far they can go on the curb. Once again, that's becoming a factor. Through the chicanes, guys are trying to take as much as they can. They're bouncing the cars up, but at the same time, go too far right or too far left, and you will land up in a world of hurt as well.
Yeah, it looks like Morgan fell back to 4th place. Might be that our timing screen's just now to have a catch up there. But Bago still coping with that pressure from Christian Deploy. We saw Christian having a little look on the inside there as they went into turn 1. Wasn't close enough.
Has got a drive-through as well. So that's 4 drive-throughs that have happened within the last 2 minutes.
Is that a sign of things to come for tomorrow evening, or do you think the guys are going to be a bit more sensible tomorrow evening and have the longer game in mind, with the race being 80 minutes long and not 45 minutes?
Watching Bago Krobler and Christian deploy under braking, and it's something I want to take a look from the helmet cam from Christian deploy, is see the steering input. There's a significant amount of understeer coming out of that car. And Bago Krobler as well, who's in 6th place, has also got a fair amount of understeer. I think these front tires are starting. Remember when I was talking about you take life out of the tires about 5% every single time you hit the curbs hard enough? I think we're starting to see it here. This is where the understeer is starting to come in. And if we go to Brandon Kruger, who hasn't had anyone chasing him hard this time around, as he rockets over the curb, he's going after, which looks to be Essie just ahead of him, taking quite a bit of curbs. Actually slowed it down quite significantly. That tells me he's on his last warning as well.
Yeah, trying to be a bit more sensible as we see him close right up alongside and take the corner. I don't know, Stephen, I'm looking at the steering wheel inputs while I'm trying to look at the other cars as well, but what I take away from those in-car shots, it does look like, first of all, there is understeer to play with, which is not always a nice thing. Secondly, it does look like the front engine cars do have a little bit more of a stable rear end than what the mid-engines do. We saw that Bago going out of that last corner onto the pit straight, having to do a bit of counter steering as the rear end livened up a bit on the Audi.
And it's interesting to see how the fade has started to come in for all these cars. I mean, it's really hot out there. It's 20 degrees ambient temperature. Track temperature is a blistering 28 degrees Celsius. And with under 10 minutes left of the race, Brandon Kruger up in 1st place, Bernard Barkhuizen up into 2nd, Mac van der Merwe into 3rd. Those are valuable points for all 3 drivers. Ryan Artens into 4th, Nicholas Manuel in 5th, Bago Krobler in 6th, Christian Deploy, Christopher Radloff, Mahayath Musa, and Morgan McCall, who's down in 10th place. Morgan, who had a significant loss at this point, trying to battle it out. Mahayath Musa is not going to make it easy for the ATK driver, trying to go around on the outside. The Project Vapor driver doing everything he can, but it looks like Morgan McCall managed to get by. But Morgan, in that one fell swoop, lost 5 positions from a drive-through. And
yeah,
that was a 30-second through the pits. Now, start adding in putting tires and fuel onto these cars into the race that we're going to see tomorrow evening. There's going to be lots of planning, and especially for the sprint race at the moment, all the drivers are starting to feel it. This is what's going on. I can see the drivers mentally are starting to get fatigued. More and more mistakes is coming in.
Here's something for tomorrow evening. We've seen a lot of times the guys pit early in the longer races. With Zolder being a shorter track, if you pit early, that's effectively going to put you a lap behind. You're going to be a lapped car. Do you think we're going to see those early pit stops tomorrow evening, or are the guys going to try and stick at it and pit later on in the race? Do we have
my personal opinion to it, and it's going to be a very unpopular opinion here. It's going to stick to that it's going to be to that early pit stop. Get yourself in, get yourself out of traffic, because the moment, think of it like when you're busy running, you're busy jogging with someone. You lined up, the guy's got longer legs than you. You trying to jog his pace. And you start getting out of rhythm with your pace. So put it in the fact of going into a grid and side by side on a very rhythm intensive circuit like Zolder. The last thing you want to do is start trying to work to another person's rhythm instead of your own, and you start wearing out the tires differently to how your setup has meant to be done. That's what I think is going to be a very, very interesting situation for the first pit stop. Get out of traffic. Second pit stop, though, go hell for leather. Go run it to the end, get it right to the end of the life of those tires, and empty the tank right out so you can try and pace yourself a little bit better.
But here's the thing. If you do that early pit stop, it might just put you right back in the middle of the pack again, with the difference you are a lap down. You need to make way for the cars behind you. So that's going to make you fall back even further.
I'm never raced in the top 10, so I can't tell you how it feels to be at the front. I can tell you how it feels to be in the middle or at the back.
And be honest, in real life, it's a bit of a different story. Bago Crawler now has Christian again.
And he's caught up to Nicholas Manuel. Nicholas Manuel is taking a look in his rearview mirror. So Nicholas Manuel, Bago Crawler, Christian Deploy, Christopher Radloff, all running into a train with 2 minutes and 40 seconds to go.
So this is going to get quite interesting.
Well, time to watch your rearview mirrors. Where do you look? Because essentially, wherever you go sausage in the middle. And, well, in the immortal words of yourself, Jan, if you have 2 warnings, if you've only used not any of your warnings, and you want to try get the jump on it, might be the opportunity to use a little bit more curb to get that drive into closer to the back of another vehicle to try and upset them. This is where you've got to start thinking, what can I do?
I'm not gonna name any names, but this is what I'm talking about. This is where low incident points might come in handy at this point of the race. I've got 17 to go. I only used 5, so not going to use the rest in the remainder of the race.
Look, you cannot overtake for advantage gain. That's one thing we want to be clear with. You cannot take a position with advantage gain. But you can get a little bit more drive by avoiding the sausage curves a little bit to the left-hander here. You watch guys through the right, in through the left. If you can just go over the sausage curves without it going and kicking up your front wheels, Nicholas Manuel though. No, that's Nicholas Manuel with the drive through. 1 minute left of the race, and tried using what I was talking about, but unfortunately
that didn't work. No, what I wanted to say is Christian Radloff got a bit of a drive there on the ploy. I thought he was going to close in on the second chicane, but that puts Nicholas Manuel out of their way. So that's a free position gain for all of these drivers, and the track livings didn't work out quite as planned for him. And another drive through for Hannes van Wyk. So the drive-throughs are coming in thick and fast.
Hannes van Wyk with 2 drive-throughs coming into play now, because he was in the pits a little bit earlier. But Brandon Kruger on the last lap and making his way around, as we heard Jim informing us. And thank you to Jim for all the hard work, along with Tim. Bernard Barkhuizen in second place. There we go. Mac van der Merwe in third. Fourth place, Ryan Ottens. Bago Crawler. Nicholas Manuel actually going and conceding the position to Bago. And now...
contact from the ploy there.
Just trying to give it everything he's got. But Bago managing to get by. But Nicholas Manuel's putting the fight in to hold back Christian Deploy. Christian flashing his light saying, listen, mate, you've got the drive-through. Give us the gap. This is where we're talking about where you lean in terms of driving a little bit smarter. Or
so basically, Manuel is taking the 30-second penalty because he did not take the drive-through on the last lap.
That's it. He's going to take through. He's going to let it go. But coming up through the last chicane and is going to be smiling all the way to the bank. Brandon Kruger taking first place for round number 6 of the RaceFace GT3 Sprint Series. Bernard Barkhuizen taking away some valuable points in second place. Third place is Mac van der Merwe, followed by Ryan Otten. So Bernard was faster than Mac. Take that, versus Hugo. Ryan Otten's taking fourth place. Bego Krobler in fifth. Christian Deploy did everything he could, but just couldn't get across the line. Christopher Adloff in a seventh place. Nicholas Manuel diving into the pits. Morgan McCall making his way around. He's going to be in ninth place, but will be moving up. Mahayath Musa going to be coming across the line in 10th place. Sanjin Pillay in 11th. Justin Lotus in 12th. 13th, Hannes van Wyk. 14th is Grant Sebastian at the moment. Tony Kube in 15th. Jean Leroux in 16th. 17th is Tennis Bertha, followed by Hansi Myberg, Werner Skuman, Daniel Dematros Petro, Johan Kleinans, SES Days, and William Wentworth rounding out the field. But once the official times come in, as we see, Nicholas Manuel will be scoring a 30-second penalty along with Hannes van Wyk. What a incredible race. And it sets up a lot of questions come tomorrow evening. What is going to be the advantages? What's going to be moving forward? And taking a look, Nicholas Manuel arriving out in ninth place on the official results. But as pointed out by Bert Hugo, first, second, third, all the KSR team going and taking some valuable points away from Hybrid Academy for the team championship. And let's see how it's all going to work out as we move on into next week. And round number 7, can you believe it?
Well, in the famous words of Kimi Räikkönen, whoa, I don't know, Stephen. Tomorrow night's going to be interesting. I don't know what to say. You know, the amount of drive-through penalties we had tonight was kind of insane. It just shows you that these drivers were pushing those cars to the absolute limit. Are we going to see it again tomorrow night? Well, I think definitely they're going to push it to the limit again. Maybe take away what they've learned tonight, the mistakes that they've made. As Jan Kleinans said, you know, we make the mistakes tonight, we earn the points tomorrow night. Even though for some of these drivers, this is an absolute championship and they're fighting it right to the end. They need to take away tonight what they have learned and apply those mistakes or whatever, correct them for tomorrow night.
That's it. And see Daniel Rowe also jumping into the chat, going and giving a bit of support to his teammates as well. So good to see that the team's jumping in to go and have some great support. But round number 6 over. 2 more rounds to go, 7 and 8. And then we're done and dusted. Round number 7 is going to be around Suzuka. So we're going to head over to Japan and go and enjoy ourselves around Suzuka, the 130R. Let's see who can get the quickest around the 130R. And that's going to be next week, same time at 8:30. So feel free to come tune in. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, the like, and also drop a comment as well, as we on our road to 1,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. But Janneman, anything from your side in closing?
Well, what I can say is really looking forward to tomorrow evening. You know, having the pro tier slug it out around this track, jumping curbs, do whatever they can to get past people. I think, Stephen, it's going to be an absolute banger of a race. And I don't mean the contact. I mean the amount of, you know, battles we're going to see up and down the field. I think it's going to be absolutely amazing. And once again, it only takes, you know, a couple of cars to get involved in a battle, and that can put the 1 or 2 cars out in the front in the clear, and they might run away with it. So let's see what happens. I'm not making any predictions. I'm just going to sit back, relax, and watch the action tomorrow evening on the screen.
This is going to be incredible. I can't wait to see the end of the RaceFace GT3 Sprint Championship. It is still so close amongst drivers, and what can all go out. We've got the unofficial results at the moment, but the official results will come out on the Discord, and I can't wait to see it because the points are so close. But thank you so much to all our sponsors, to you guys, the teams, the drivers, the spectators, the family who are going out and supporting. We love to have you here at RaceFace. Big thank you to every single one of you. And till next time, I'm going to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night from Yanneman and myself.
Good night, everyone.